Greetings, everybody. Greetings, my friends. Drak here. And today we're going to be taking on another review. And I know that a lot of people are probably looking at the episode title and going, wait, I thought he already did a Lego game this year. Yes, I did. I did Lego Avengers. The reason that I decided to do this one is because I'd heard through the grapevine that Traveler's Tales was starting to improvise with their formula and decided to use Force Awakens as a way to be able to push the new formula, push new features into the Lego games. And so I decided, after battling with it for a good couple of months, that I was going to do it and see if the new features were going to be a good thing or a bad thing to the Lego movie formula. So with that being said, welcome to my review of Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Now, people already know kind of my viewpoint on the Lego games being, in my opinion, better movie tie-ins than some of the movie tie-ins that we've gotten throughout the years. I'm not saying that it's better than Spider-Man 2 or Batman on NES kind of thing, but the Lego games with their satire really are better than, well, some of the more recent movie tie-ins that we get that are absolutely horrible. So at that point, I want to make sure that you understand that so that we can just bounce into this. And let's go ahead and bounce right into the review, starting with the story, which there's not really a whole lot to talk about here, people. I'm pretty sure everybody who's watched this video has seen Star Wars: The Force Awakens. So at that point, you know the story, and they didn't really do much to change it. They if anything, they expanded on a couple of events in there to make levels, but that's about it. So with that being said, obviously the story is good as far as I'm concerned. I like The Force Awakens. I love being able to watch it whenever I get a free minute. But there isn't a whole lot of change here. And frankly, aside from the satire, and the satire is great for this one. I especially loved some of the moments where, like, Kylo Ren's lightsaber wouldn't work, so he had to, bash it on his knee or something like that. There were a couple of awesome moments that were given even more humor than they were in the actual movie, specifically like with Han and Chewie. But really, the story here isn't all that different. However, the main addition, because it's not different, the main addition that they did was, in order to get people familiar with the new systems, they actually started things out on Endor in episode 6, and then went into episode 7. So with that, additionally, nothing changed there, really. It's the same Return of the Jedi Ewok battle that we're all familiar with. So really, I didn't give any marks down for story on this particular issue. Visually, I didn't have any major issues with it. It looks like a Lego game, and what doesn't look like a Lego game looks very spot on. I've made it very clear Traveler's Tales gives a lot of love to any property that they take on, and the backgrounds always look absolutely awesome, and this is no exception. Endor looked great. Jakku looked great. I mean, for as much as people like to make fun of it, Jakku is Tatooine 2.0, it still looked awesome. Even going through shipwreckage. I can't even remember the place where they met Maz, the planet there. That looked great, and all of the levels that took place there. I want to say the Death Star, but that's not what it is. But the Death Star planet, that still looked awesome. So visually, this was a great game, and exemplary to Traveler's Tales. So I didn't really take a whole lot of points off for either backgrounds or Lego designs, because it worked. I know this is going to be kind of quick, people, because this is one of those games where you can't really complain about it too much. But moving on to the gameplay, this is where a lot of the changes got implemented. So people might have noticed, and I actually did get a couple of people kind of mad at me that I didn't talk about, or I didn't address this as much in Lego Marvel's Avengers. The reason I didn't was because, to me, Avengers changes were more subtle. But yeah, now that I've played Force Awakens, I can see them a little bit better. So at that point, yeah, I do like the subtle changes to the system. In particular, with this one, they actually tried to do kind of a cover shooter, more mechanic with Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I have a feeling if they do like a more shooter intense Lego game, then they'll implement this mechanic as well. I wouldn't be surprised if it made its way into, fantasy stuff eventually. But really what they tried to do was implement more puzzles, implement more ways to be able to solve those puzzles, including multiple ways that includes replay value. So at that point, it was just... in a lot of cases, I may have made it sound like, they were changing the formula for the worse. But no, in a lot of cases, I think that they did everything right to be able to move this formula forward from here on in. I mean, I know a lot of people who got mad about Lego Batman 2 and the fact that they added voices because nobody ever wanted voices in a Lego game. But it works. Even in the case of Lego Marvel's Avengers or Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, where they just use clips from the movie. That's fine if you want to be able to do that, because you can still have these silent moments where they are still having the Lego humor, and it still works. So at that point, gameplay, I may have taken... I've taken off a little bit of a mark, because some of the things you can tell, like a lot of the puzzle-solving elements aren't necessarily broken, but they do need some tweaking to be able to make it work. So I'm just making that very clear that the job isn't done. The engine isn't overhauled. You still have crap that still needs to be done. So at that point, I did take a little bit of a mark off on gameplay. Audio, I also did take a little bit of a mark off because unlike Lego Marvel's Avengers, there were a couple of clips that they got from the movie that I felt could have been edited a little bit better. They seemed a little bit grainy to me. I really wish I could have narrowed all of them down, but even going through the footage, it sounded okay, but I could have when I played through it on my headphones, it sounded a little bit more grainy. So I wish I could give you like a proper example of it. They even had them come in and do new lines, specifically towards boss battles. So like they did a boss battle with Kylo Ren, had him read a couple of new lines. That was awesome. That was the way that you needed to go about it, but it's still the same John Williams score music-wise. I mean, or is it John Williams? I think it was John Williams that did Force Awakens, but it's still that same score, so it's still enjoyable. It was just a couple of times where I thought that the audio sounded a little grainy, and that could have been fixed. That ultimately could have been fixed, especially when you're utilizing movie clips, because as much as I didn't have a problem with Lego Marvel's Avengers, I haven't played through Lego The Hobbit, but Lego Lord of the Rings had the problem too. It sounded there were a lot of lines in there that sounded very grainy, like they'd been downloaded and tweaked maybe too many times. I would actually more like they've been converted way too many times. And so moving on into the replay value in the presentation. So replay value, it's a Lego game, guys. Obviously, it's got replay value. There are characters to unlock. There are vehicles to unlock. They added a little bit more of replay value where they added in missions that you could take on in the various planets. So that would have even more additional rewards, additional trophies, achievements, all of that stuff. So there's plenty to be able to do with replay value. Spot on, full marks there. Presentation, does it come together? Obviously it does. It's one of those things where I can't really dissuade people from a Traveler's Tales Lego game. They do it really, really well. Oh, but it's a movie, and I love the people who come and it's like, oh, it's a movie tie-in. Those things are always destined to fail. I would actually dare say that the Lego games aren't, because I don't think that they are the typical movie tie-in. They're always trying to be satire towards whatever it is they're implementing. Even Lego Dimensions kind of still has that same element. So at that point, I do think that it all comes together. There are little hiccups here and there, but not that ultimately just stop your immersion completely. So I have no problem saying that the presentation is there spot on. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and give my final score on Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens on a 7.5 out of 10. This is a solid C, especially considering all of the engine overhauls and the gameplay tweaks that they're making. It's still very solid. It actually makes me excited to play the next Lego game, just to make sure that they've kind of fixed the formula overall. So yeah, 7.5, I can wholeheartely recommend this, especially to Star Wars fans and especially to Lego fans. You guys are all going to have an enjoyable experience. And I know that this has been a little bit shorter, but again, there really wasn't a whole lot to go into that people don't already know about Lego games. So that's going to go ahead and do it for my review of Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens. And I, of course, will see you guys next time for the next review.